Hello, my name is Alex, and today I will be speaking about used to and would. So initially, I just wanted to speak about them as of the construction that you can use in the past, but now I would like to give you more detail about the word use and used to itself. So let's begin. So first, use, right? So the word use, used
Hello,
first,
my name is Alex.
used as a, sorry. So the word use, first used as a verb itself, right? Then we have this construction, I used to be, I used to, yeah? Here, number two. For example, I used to be a doctor, a past state that now isn't true. Then we use it like this. I used to like it, a past action that now isn't true. I'm used to the heat, familiarity with a situation, and I'm used to working hard, familiarity with an action. So let's look at it in more detail and more examples. Okay, so the first one, the word use, used as a verb. So we use it to take, hold, or deploy something as a means of accomplishing or achieving something, or employ. For example, I use scissors to cut paper. She uses a pen to write a word on paper. He uses money to buy food. We use our car to go to work. And sand is used to produce glass. I use scissors to cut paper. She uses a pen to write a word on paper. He uses money to buy food. We use our car to go to work. And sand is used to produce glass. So the last sentence is in the passive voice, right? So we can use it like this. Okay. For example, paper is used to make. So wood is used to make paper. Okay. So first, the word use is used as a verb. Okay. So next slide. So here, this construction is used to express a past state that now isn't true, right? So what is the construction? The construction is used to plus a noun or an adjective, right? So, for example, I used to be a doctor in the past. In the past, now I'm not. She used to be a teacher. Now she isn't. We used to be poor. Now we aren't. And they used to be patient. Now they aren't. Right? So we use it like this. So we may use it instead of past simple. Here you may say, well, she was a doctor in the past. She was a teacher. We were poor, and they were patient. So we can use it like this instead of past simple. Okay. So the next slide. So this construction is used to express a past action that now isn't true, meaning the verb. So we use used to plus a verb. For example, I used to like ice cream. She used to go to the swimming pool. We used to drive to work. They used to live in Australia. Okay. And again, we may use just past simple here. For example, in the past, I liked ice cream. She went to the swimming pool in the past, like every day. We drove to work, and they lived in Australia for some time in the past. Okay, so the next slide. Okay, so this construction is used to express familiarity with a situation. So the construction is, so the verb to be plus construction used to plus a noun. Okay, so I'm used to the, imagine you're going to Africa, to move to Africa, right? So you say, oh, it's hot in Africa, and you say, that's fine, I'm used to the heat. It's okay for me. I'm familiar with this heat. It's fine. It's okay for me. Let's say you just moved to Africa and you're not used to it. So you may say, I'm getting used to the heat now. So, I'm not used to it. It's too hot for now, but because I'm living here and I will stay here for some time, for quite some time, now I'm getting used to that, to the heat. Okay? So we also may use the future form, will, right? So future simple. For example, what about you're moving to Africa in a few weeks? So you say, well, I know it's hot there, but I'm sure I will get used to the heat when I move there, right? Or the situation like this. So for example, you've lived in Africa for quite some time, and then you say, well, it took me a year to get used to the heat. Future form, will, right? So we use it like that. Next slide. So, similar construction, but with a verb. So this construction is used to express familiarity with an action, right? So we take the verb to be plus construction used to plus a verb in the ing form or gerund, right? So, for example, again, this situation with Africa. For example, you've moved here, and so you're telling your friends. So I'm used to living here, guys. It's fine for me now. It's really hot here, but I'm used to living here. I'm getting used to living here, again, if you've just moved there. And then, again, you're about to go to Africa in a few weeks, and you say, well, I'm sure I'll get used to living there when I move there, okay? And after a while, after you've moved there, after a few months, you say, well, or after a few months, after a year, you say, well, it took me a year to get used to living here, and now I am used to it, or I'm used to living here. Okay, the next slide. So now we're moving on to the word would, right? All right, so like used to and the past simple, would with always suggests an old habit that stopped in the past. Unlike used to or the past simple, would always suggest a willingness to do the action or amusement and or annoyance. It can also suggest an extreme habit. The opposite is expressed with would never. Okay? So this is how we use the word would. So more detail on that. Sorry. So here we have the examples, right? For example, my grandmother would always get me a book for Christmas. Sarah would always come late to work on Mondays. Danny would not always come out with us. Allison would always end up in a relationship with the strangest man. We would not always go abroad for the summer holidays. One more time. So my grandmother would always get me a book for Christmas. Sarah would always come late to work on Mondays. Danny would not always come out with us. Allison would always end up in a relationship with the strangest man. We would not always go abroad for the summer holidays. So as we can see, we're only speaking about action verbs, right? So we have get, come out, end up, and go. So they're not states, they're actions. So with actions we use would. But with used to, we may use states, yeah? I used to be a swimmer. I used to be a doctor. I used to be a teacher. So things like this. So used to is used for actions and states. So I used to be a swimmer. I used to swim, right? And would is only used for states, as you see in these examples. Okay, the next one. But it is important to remember that would always is not the same as used to or the past simple. Would cannot be used to speak about past facts or generalizations, only past repeated activities or actions. For example, I used to be painfully shy when I was young. See? It's a state, it's not the action, being shy, to be shy. Not, I would always be painfully shy when I was young. But I would always be shy when I met new people when I was a young boy. In this case, would always is describing a repeated action, meaning meeting new people. Okay? So let's go over again. So when do we use the word use, right? So number one, as a verb, just to use, used as a verb itself. Then I used to be a doctor, a past state that now isn't true. Okay. I used to like it, a past action that now isn't true. I'm used to the heat, familiarity with a situation. I'm used to working hard, familiarity with an action. All right. Okay, let's go further. Here, more closely, let's look at it. So to use as a verb. So is to use to take, hold, or deploy something as a means of accomplishing or achieving something, or to employ. For example, I use scissors to cut paper. She uses a pen to write a word on paper. He uses money to buy food. We use our car to go to work. And send is used to produce glass. Okay, next one. So this construction is used to express a past state that now isn't true. So used to plus a noun or adjective. Number one. I used to be a doctor. She used to be a teacher. We used to be poor. They used to be patient. Okay, instead of this construction, you may use just past simple. For example, I was a doctor. She was a teacher. We were poor, and they were patient. All right. Next construction. This construction is used to express a past action that now isn't true. So it's used to plus a verb. Number one, I used to like ice cream. She used to go to the swimming pool. We used to drive to work. They used to live in Australia. All right. So here again, we may use just past simple. I liked ice cream. She went to the swimming pool. We drove to work, and they lived in Australia. All right. So next one. Here, this construction is used to express familiarity with a situation. Right. Again, this example with living in Africa. Right. So, for example, if imagine you live in Africa and someone's coming to visit you and your friends, and they ask you, well, how can you stand this heat? You say, well, guys, it's fine. I'm used to the heat. When you have just moved to Africa and someone's asking you, so how do you deal with the weather? It's so hot here. You say, well, I'm getting used to the heat, meaning like I'm going through this process. Okay, so the next one, let's say you're moving to Africa in a few months, and someone's telling you that it's really hot there. You say, well, don't worry, I'm sure I'll get used to the heat when I move there, right? And after a year of living in Africa, you tell your friends, you say, well, guys, at first it was hard, but it took me a year to get used to the heat. So now it's fine. So next construction, similar, but with a verb. So this construction is used to express familiarity with an action, right? With a verb. To be plus used to plus a verb in the ing form. So again, you're in Africa right now. Someone's asking you, so how do you find it here? So is it hard to live here? You say, well, it is maybe, but I'm used to living here. It's fine. again, you've just moved to Africa and someone's asking you, so how do you deal with the life there? You say, well, I'm getting used to living here. Again, you're moving to Africa in a few months and someone's telling you that it's really difficult to live there. You say, well, I'm sure I'll get used to living there. When I move there, I need to see it myself. And after living a year in Africa, you say, well, again, guys, it took me a year to get used to living here. All right? So, now, when do we use would, right? So, would, it's used like used to, but only for actions on repetitive, the actions that happen again and again in the past, right? For example, like used to and the past simple, would with always suggests an old habit that stopped in the past. Unlike used to or the past simple, would always suggest a willingness to do the action or amusement or annoyance. It can also suggest an extreme habit. The opposite of this is expressed with would never. Okay, let's get to the examples of it. For example, my grandmother would always get me a book for Christmas. Yeah, so she always did it for me. So here you may just use past simple. My grandmother always got me a book for Christmas, right? But to express more of a feeling to it, we should use, not should use, but we may use would. So Sarah would always come late to work on Mondays. Danny would not always come out with us. Yeah. Allison would always end up in a relationship with the strangest man. And we would not always go abroad for the summer holidays. Okay. So, next one. Now, it is important to remember that would always is not the same as used to or the past simple. Would cannot be used to speak about past facts or generalizations, only past repeated actions. For example, I used to be painfully shy when I was young. Not, I would always be painfully shy when I was young. But I would always be shy when I met new people when I was a young boy. In this case, would always is describing a repeated action, such as meeting new people. Okay? So, that's pretty much it for today. Now, I'm waiting for your questions. Right? Again, if you can't make a sentence in English, yeah, ask me something in English. Please ask me in Russian. I will answer. I will answer you. So now I'm waiting for your questions. I see 3 people in the chat. So don't be shy. Don't be afraid. Just ask me either in English or in Russian. Doesn't matter. I can understand both. So. By the way, if you would like to have lessons with me face to face or online on Skype, please contact the school, and then you can have lessons with me. And again, one more thing about these 2 constructions or words, rather. For example, if we're speaking about the situation with the coronavirus right now, yeah. So if you want to tell someone what you were doing before the virus, right? Here you may use this construction or just past simple. Yeah, you may just say, oh, before the quarantine, I worked. I went to the gym. I did sport. Yeah. So here we use past simple. So then, if you want to use used to, that's more factual, right? You say, well, before the quarantine, I used to go to work. I used to, I didn't used to spend so much time in front of the TV. I used to, see my friends a lot every weekend. And with would, it's more like nostalgic, right? There's more feeling to it. So maybe you miss it. So that's why you use it. So for example, you say, yeah, before the quarantine, we would always, get together with my friends. I would always go out on Fridays and Saturdays, or I would always, every weekend, I would always go to the forest for a run or to do the jogging. So things like that. That's the difference. Okay. Now, so I'm waiting for your questions. Please ask me. Don't hesitate. I see three people in the chat. Okay, so let's wait for a few more minutes. If no one comes, we will finish this webinar. Does anyone have any questions? These three people, please ask me. I see you here. I see three people. Please ask me, either English or in Russian, please. Do it. Don't hesitate. I'll be happy to answer all of your questions related to this topic or any other questions. Maybe you have some questions about the grammar, or English or some words, some constructions. Please ask me anything. Let's talk while I'm still here. Yeah? I can answer any questions that you might have. So we'll have 3 more minutes, I guess, and then we'll be finishing. So all right, well, since no one has any questions, I think we will finish now. So guys, please come to my webinar next Friday. It'll be interesting, I promise. Now, please stay home. Don't leave the house. Leave the house only if necessary to go buy food or stuff like that, maybe the pharmacy. Stay tuned, and yeah, we'll fight the virus together.